Good evening, everyone. Good evening. As you heard, my name is Dr. Elias Stanford. I am pleased to present this award to our Disruptors, but let me put a positive spin on that. About 5 years ago, when you know what happened in our city, as a pediatric surgeon, I ultimately saved more lives in a parking lot than I ever did in an operating room. And that's what being a disruptor looks like, about being creative and innovative in a time and space in which we had never seen before. And as you've heard repeatedly, that's where we are now. And so my pledge to you is stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because we are going to have to protect our least, the lost, the most vulnerable through some of these times. And we're going to have to be innovative and creative again so that we don't have to lose a life unnecessarily. And that is my charge to those in this room. And I just wanted to publicly thank everyone who donated, who gave, who called, who had a word of encouragement, because we saved lives with the Black Doctors Consortium in the city of Philadelphia, and we took care of everyone during that time. So thank you for that. Tonight, we recognize two pioneers, Dr. Alexis Thompson and Dr. Steve Grupp, whose work has changed the future of children living with sickle cell disease. For those of you who have never witnessed a sickle cell crisis, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a child in pain so unbearable that it hurts to breathe. It hurts to smile. Pain that seeps into their bones, making it impossible to stand, to walk, to simply be a child. Shortness of breath, nausea, inability to participate in sports, exhaustion, all because blood cells, instead of flowing freely, are trapping oxygen away from their body, causing unimaginable suffering. For years, treatment meant managing symptoms with blood transfusions, hydration, pain medicine, or for the fortunate few that found a match, a bone marrow transplant. But Dr. Thompson and Dr. Grupp believed these children deserved more than just survival. They asked why, and more importantly, they asked what else could be done. Because of their vision, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia became the first children's hospital in the country to treat a sickle cell patient with gene therapy outside of a clinical trial. And this is personal for me. I had two younger cousins who lived with sickle cell disease, who knew this pain too well, and they are no longer with us. So from my own family, from all of humanity, where children now have the chance to live without this burden, I thank you. I thank you for your brilliance, your commitment, and your refusal to accept that suffering should ever be the norm. And beyond the medicine itself, working to ensure that cost is not a barrier to access. For making sure that every child who needs this treatment has a chance at a future. And it is my honor to introduce this year's Disruptors of the Year, Dr. Alexis Thompson and Dr. Steve Grupp.
Well, that was some introduction. And my introduction to sickle cell really began when I initially did my training here at CHOP. And at that time, we had so little to offer families. We were able to do newborn screening, to tell a family that they had a problem. We gave them as much hope as we could, and it's just been such an amazing journey to get to the point where we are now, to finally see that their genes are medicine. So these are individuals who may not have a sibling donor who can be a match, who are surviving but not necessarily thriving with the treatments that we had to offer. But we're able to have the patient being their own donor and for their genes to actually correct their disease. And it's been an extraordinary journey with working with scientists who for decades have labored to perfect that, and to be in an environment where we had the courage and the partnership with families who are willing to be part of clinical trials, and an institution that was willing to support us in their early years, to the point now that we have 2 FDA-approved medications that are gene therapy for sickle cell. And I'm not sure that we're done yet. I think that we're so thrilled that we've gotten to where we are. We continue to explore ways to even refine that. I think that for me, in addition to looking at what we're able to do for Philadelphia's children to assure them, hopefully, of survival, is a reminder that this is a global disease, and that today, 50 to 90% of children with sickle cell disease in sub-Saharan Africa, where 75% of children with sickle cell exist in the world, will not see their 5th birthday. We still have work to do. We're hoping that at some point gene therapy or some variation of gene therapy will reach them as well. And until they do, certainly we will not stop. I'd like to thank you for this recognition as the Disruptor of the Year. I'm gonna actually let my colleague and friend, Dr. Grupp, say some comments. Thank you.
I also appreciate the recognition for the opportunity that we've done to be able to take care of patients at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia in this incredibly rough disease, sickle cell disease, and I hope you're all familiar with how terrible this is for these patients. It's interesting to note from a historical perspective that we've known what was wrong genetically with sickle cell patients for 75 years, and it hasn't made a darn bit of difference. But now our genetic understanding has really led for the potential for actually curing these patients. Now, it's interesting to think of ourselves as disruptors of the year. I don't know how disruptive we actually feel. For many years, disruption was really a bad thing. People live close to the edge, and disruption could only mean risk. In the last few years, disruption seems like a better thing. It's gotten a good name, which is why that's what they're calling this award, and we appreciate that. We're trying to change things. We're trying to disrupt the status quo. In the last few weeks, disruption doesn't seem as attractive to me personally, but that just may be my point of view, and we all share different points of view in this. So I have 3 quick comments to make, in addition to thanking you folks for the opportunity to recognize our team at CHOP, Alexis and myself, and the many other people who work in the area of gene therapy across many diseases. I do want to thank specifically my wife of my companion of 42 years and my wife of 38 years, who has tolerated me all of this time. So that thank you is incredibly important to me. And hey, Sherry over there. So my 3 quick comments. 1, Alexis is a hematologist. She's a blood doctor. I'm an oncologist. I'm a cancer doctor. What am I doing up here? Well, one of the things that we have done is we have learned how to treat cancer with these genetic medicines. And we were able to do that in the cancer because these are patients who are facing death, and where we can take the kind of risks that was necessary to take to understand how to do this and see incredible success rates, especially in blood cancers across the age spectrum, but of course of most interest to me is children and young adults. But we learned these particular approaches that we were able now to approach to non-cancer diseases, and sickle cell is such an incredibly important disease in that regard. What we're seeing now is 90% complete response rates, which is in our business pain-free for long periods of time and out of the hospital 90% of the time. And that, in our opinion, is what cure looks like. We never want to overpromise, but that seems amazing to me. And the other thing that is amazing to me is, of course, we recognize that patients with sickle cell disease are a historically underserved medical population. The system has never treated them right. And now we have the most cutting edge approach. And can we actually get this rolled out to as many patients as possible, do this at scale, do this in some affordable fashion? And by the way, I want to specifically and briefly call out Medicaid in the state of Pennsylvania, who is really trying to work with us and other hospitals to try to get access for the kids in Philadelphia to this curative therapy. And I think that that's incredibly important because these policies within the insurance companies are incredibly important. People don't want to hear this, but you can't deliver the care without figuring out the economics of actually treating the patients. And then finally, unfortunately at my table, you know these little cards we have? It says the first responsibility of every citizen is to question authority. So there I am with that. And so the final thing I'll say is there are many things going on in the world right now, and you might feel many different ways about them. But what I see as a physician and a researcher is a profound concern about our biomedical research enterprise. And you say, well, that's just part of what we're seeing right now. It's what I see. People talk about the National Institutes of Health as the driver of research across this country, and this is something that has been incredibly powerful in these new treatments, both in cancer and in non-cancer, for so many years, and we're seeing that pulled away from us. We're seeing incredible decreases with no warning whatsoever in our funding base. Become aware of what's happening. Have an idea of what's happening, have an opinion on what's happening, express that opinion to the people who need to hear it. Let's wake up to a certain extent from our inability to appreciate all the things that are happening right now, and pick the thing that you think is either great or not so great and let somebody know about it. Thank you very much.